Tax sale properties in South Carolina and Georgia can look like incredible deals. But what happens when the title isn't insurable? First, let's go over what title is. When we talk about title in real estate, we're talking about your legal ownership rights to the property. It answers the question, do you truly own this home or can anyone else legally claim it? When you buy a typical resale home, the title is researched, cleared, and insured before closing. That's what makes it marketable and secure. What does insurable title mean? Insurable title means that a title insurance company is willing to issue a policy protecting your ownership. So if someone shows up a few years later saying that they own the property, they weren't properly notified of the tax sale, they're an heir to the property, or if there's an outstanding lien, the title insurance company steps up to help you and save you financially. No insurable title doesn't automatically mean that you don't own it. It means that no lender will finance it. They have to be cash deals. Future buyers may struggle to purchase it if they're using a loan, and you're personally assuming the legal risk. In South Carolina and Georgia, when property taxes go unpaid, the county will sell the property at a tax sale, but the structure between the two states is slightly different. In Carolina, investors first buy a tax lien certificate. The original owner has 1 year to redeem the property, and if they don't redeem, the investor receives a tax deed. But that tax deed does not automatically create insurable title. Oftentimes, the buyer must file what's called a quiet title action, which is a lawsuit to formally clear any competing ownership claims. In Georgia, on the other hand, they receive a tax deed right at the tax sale, but there's a 1 year redemption period, and the original owner can redeem by paying the purchase price plus a penalty fee. Even after that redemption period, most investors still need to quiet the title before selling to a traditional buyer. A real situation that I'm navigating right now, and it's been a journey for the past couple months. We're closing next week. I currently represent a buyer who has the opportunity to purchase her childhood home. It went through a tax sale, it's a cash deal, and the title's not insurable. She fully understands the risk. She will most likely need to pay for a quiet title action, and even though there's legal risk involved, for her, this isn't a numbers decision. She grew up in this house, it's memories, it's family. Hold on, my kid just called me. Bear with me one moment. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. So, in regards to the client I'm representing, she fully understands the risk, and she's going to have to pay for quiet title action, most likely. And even though this isn't a numbers decision, this is a decision where logic and emotion collide. So, the real dilemma, the question isn't, is this a perfect investment? The question is this risk worth it to me? So the financial risk is real, but the emotional value is real too. And a good real estate, good real estate agent, good realtor, they're not going to push you to close. They're going to make sure you are 100% informed. So the takeaway from this is that tax sale properties can absolutely create opportunity, but they're not beginner friendly. And so I see a lot of things online that are like, hey, here are these tax sales, buy them up, sell them, you're going to make so much money. And the thing is that if you are considering buying a tax sale property, there's a few questions you need to ask. And you need to find out if quiet title has been completed. Is the title insurable? If not, how can you go about it? What's your exit strategy? What's your game plan after you get the house? What happens if you want to back out of the contract? And you need to consider if you're being compensated for the risk you're taking, because ownership isn't just about getting keys, it's about security and peace of mind. Real estate is part legal, part financial, and part emotional. And the best decisions happen when you understand all three. If you're ever navigating a complicated property situation, please talk to a professional before you sign anything, especially someone that's local, someone that knows your state regulations. You want to talk to somebody and have them on your side to help you through this, or you can end up in a big mess. And I just, especially I haven't dealt with any tax sales until I was working with this client. And I know in my previous videos and other times I'll preach this too, are things like always do a due diligence period. With this tax sale, so when the home hit the MLS, in in the description, it's pretty much saying like, no due diligence. You're going to forfeit your earnest money if you can't close on time. We want a quick closing. We want this person to be the closing attorney. And they even already had a contract that was listed in the MLS that they wanted people who were submitting an offer to use. And that contract, which I'd always been taught, you don't ever alter the contract, right? Because a real estate attorney has made it the language how they need to make it, and you don't alter anything. And I mean, the contract they pushed us and everybody else to use it had, lines out, crossing out everything, crossing out things about title. And then there was also these documents that we had to initial and sign that were just pretty much disclosures saying like, I understand there's no insurable title, I understand there's issues with the title, I understand this came from a tax sale. And as I was going through this with my client, I was like, are you sure that you want to do this? Because this has it has a lot of risk. Let's consult with an attorney. And if we had to agree to no due diligence and like a 2-week close, and it's just, if this wasn't her childhood home and she didn't have an emotional attachment to it, or if I was dealing with an investor who's like, yeah, I do tax sales all the time. I know I have a lawyer, I can do all this. Those are the only type of clients I feel like I would be comfortable representing in this type of transaction. And it's just, if you want to get into tax sales, I highly recommend consulting with a local realtor, a local attorney, because, a good deal, there can be things that come with it. There can be things that you might not know right now, but 6 months down the road are a huge issue. And it's just, I always tend to play things very safe. I mean, when it comes to paperwork and legality things, and try to make sure that everybody's following everything and it's going to all work out. And so this has been an experience for me. And I mean, I would tell you, based on what I heard and saw in the tax records of what the investor paid for it to get it and what they're making off of it when they sell it, I mean, tax sales just seem like a headache, essentially, for not that much money. I don't know. And so if anybody has had any experience with this, or if you're an investor and you go to tax sales, feel free to let me know your thoughts. If you like this content or you want to see more of it, feel free to like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.